Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Spurs Postgame Reaction. I'm your host, Shivam Patel. I'm live here in San Antonio, Texas. I'm a basketball analyst. And thank you again so much for tuning into this show. Remember to put your comments, your reactions, your chats in the chat section below. I would love to hear what Spurs Nation thinks about this game tonight. Unfortunately, the Spurs came on the wrong end of the stick tonight against the Warriors, but still, it was still a great game. So please put your comments in the chat section below, and I'll read them live on the show. And again, remember to follow the Patel Pick and Roll Sports Facebook page and like, share, and subscribe to the Patel Pick and Roll Sports YouTube channel. So getting back to the game, again, it was a tough loss against the Warriors. The Warriors completely, dominated from the beginning of the game until the end. Steph Curry had a masterful performance, 32 points, making 4 3-pointers. He was just basically toying with the Spurs, getting to his spots, getting to wherever he wanted to get to. He played like an MVP candidate tonight, and he propelled the Warriors to the victory. And it's tough, trying to win back-to-back games, especially against a high talented team like the Golden State Warriors, who was very, very potent on the offensive end of the floor. So Spurs just fell short. But I was noticing, from the beginning of the game, when the Spurs try to trap the pick and rolls, and Steph Curry, instead of passing out of it like he did last night, he was splitting the double team on the pick and roll, and basically that forced the Spurs to either stay with the shooters in the corners or try to collapse the paint and defend the paint against Steph Curry. And the Spurs decided to stay with the shooters, and that allowed wide open driving lanes to Steph Curry. He had a lot of trick shots, and the reason that he's able to split the double team is because he has magnificent handles, some of the best handles in the NBA, and he can put people on a string basically and get to wherever he wants to on the floor. And I think that was a big reason that he was able to really get to his spots. And instead of just firing from three early in the game, he really attacked the basket, got to the free throw line, got his confidence up with some layups. The net really translated to the three-point line because he only made 4 threes, but he completely dominated in the paint. So he kind of changed his approach from last night, and the Spurs weren't ready for that. And he was just too good tonight. And whenever Steph Curry plays like an MVP caliber player, it takes the Warriors to a whole nother level because they're really tough to beat because the other players really feed off his energy, and it really showed. Andrew Wiggins was super aggressive tonight. He wasn't taking as many jump shots as he was last night. Kelly Oubre made a couple nice three-point shots. Eric Pascal had a nice game. Even Damian Lee from the bench was making threes, as well as Draymond Green. So that really feeds off to his teammates. And Steph Curry was giving them the compliment. The Spurs were trying to hone in on. He's a very selfish player that he'll pass to his other teammates and get wide open shots, and that really opened up the floor for the Warriors. So it was a tough defensive performance, by the Spurs. It's really like a pick your poison. Are you going to let Steph Curry get to the lane and shoot layups, or would you rather give up the three? So the Spurs were in a tough kind of situation. But the Warriors had 44 points in the paint, which is a complete reversal of their strategy last night in the Spurs win. The Warriors were just really, I think Steve Kerr really told them to just attack the basket, put your head down, get to the free throw line. They were, making layups, floaters, getting offensive rebounds, putbacks. It was just a wide range of shots in the paint, and I think that was really key for the Warriors. And then their paint game opened up their three-point game. They ended up, making 15 three-pointers out of 36 attempts. But they also had 23 assists. They went back to Warriors basketball, ball movement, body movement, cutting to the basket. I think that was really key for them. They were also really good on the defensive end of the floor. The Warriors I'm speaking of, they had 8 steals, which last night DeJounte Murray had 8 steals, but the Warriors had 8 steals tonight. So it was just a whole different game from last night. And you have to credit the Warriors because they made all the necessary adjustments, and they were just a better team tonight. They were more focused, more determined, and they played harder. So again, I would like to hear from you, Spurs Nation. I would like to hear your reaction from this game. I know it was a tough loss, but please put your comments in the comment section below, and I'm going to read some of the comments here. We have an audience member saying Spurs defense was not there tonight. Yeah, I agree. They were allowing too many straight line drives to the basket from the Warriors, because I think the Spurs expected the Warriors to continue to live and die by the three like they did last night. But a good team, a championship caliber team like the Warriors, they'll adjust. Steve Kerr is an excellent coach. They have a great coaching staff. They have high IQ players in Steph Curry and Draymond Green. So they knew that the three-point shot may not fall like it did last night. So let's drive to the basket and get easy points and manufacture our offense from the paint. And I think that's what they did tonight. And the Spurs, they weren't as active on the defensive end of the floor. Ball pressure wasn't as good. They weren't getting as many deflections. They didn't have that same energy. They were not flying around with their rotations. I noticed their rotations were late tonight, allowing a lot of wide open threes. But that also has to do with the Warriors' ball movement, because the Warriors were moving the ball, making the extra pass, and really putting a lot of pressure on the Spurs defense. So regarding the Spurs offense, it was just a tough night offensively. DeRozan only had 12 points. Nobody really stepped up on the offensive end of the floor. Of course, they were missing Derek White and LaMarcus Aldridge, two veterans. And so, DeRozan was tasked to try to carry this load on the offensive end of the floor, and he just didn't have it tonight. He looked a little bit tired from last night after having an awesome performance. And I think he was just trying to let the young guys get the mojo going. Keldon Johnson, of course, was bringing a lot of energy, getting to the basket, getting a lot of second chance opportunities, even making a couple of jump shots. But nobody really, carried the Spurs on their back and really asserted themselves offensively. Everybody they had a couple guys in double scoring. There was no way they took it to the top. And I think that really hurt, the Spurs tonight. And we had another audience comment saying Lonnie Walker was not in sync tonight. Yeah, he did miss the last couple of games due to stomach bug, and he came off the bench. Devin Vassell, the rookie, had made his first start for the Spurs tonight. I think Vassell played well. He was making the shots. His defense wasn't there, but he was at least aggressive on the offensive end. But Lonnie Walker, he seemed a little bit unsure of, how to, where to pick his spots, when to attack, when to shoot. I think he was a little bit too over passive tonight. But that just come with experience, come with reps as he continues to get himself back acclimated to playing in the NBA game. So I think the Spurs on the offensive end, they were taking a lot of contested shots, which has to do with the Warriors defense. The Spurs were very sloppy. The Warriors forced 13 turnovers on the Spurs. They were just throwing the ball all over the gym. I thought in the second half, they made a lot of risky passes, like cross-court passes, and you cannot do that against this talented Warriors team, because they have a lot of great defenders, and those guys fly around the ball, and they'll pick the ball off like a free safety in football. So luckily, it didn't come to bite them in the first half, but it came to bite them in the second half, where the Warriors were kind of reading the passing lanes, kind of knowing what the Spurs were trying to do on the offensive end, and that goes to the Spurs being a little bit too predictable. And the Warriors really like to play fast, so they got a lot of turnovers, got in transition. Even on made baskets, they were playing fast. They were just sprinting down the court, forcing transition opportunities, forcing mismatches, and they were getting a lot of wide open threes. So the Spurs, that's been a huge problem this year, the transition defense, because they got to be better, because teams are running fast even during nights and trying to favorable matchups and either getting layups or wide open threes. So Coach Pop really needs to work on the transition defense with the Spurs, because they have the athletes, they have the young guys to be able to, and they have the athleticism to be able to continue to, play better transition defense. But something I didn't like, for the Spurs on the defensive end on the floor was when Curry was in a pick and roll. Of course, they didn't have their center James Wiseman, the rookie, so he ran a lot of pick and roll with Draymond Green. I didn't like that the Spurs were switching, and having bad matchups like, Trey Lyles on Steph Curry, Jakob Poeltl on Steph Curry. And, Steph Curry just going to do his thing. He's going to dance with the basketball, put you on a string, get to wherever he wants to go. So the Spurs needed to do a better job of fighting over the screens and not forcing that switch, because the Warriors were really targeting Jakob Poeltl and finding whoever he was guarding, putting his man in pick and roll. And I think the Warriors really exploited the switches, and something the Spurs cannot allow that to happen, because DeJounte Murray was doing a great job on Steph, but he was picked off of him a bunch of times, and I think that really hurt the Spurs, on the defensive end of the floor. And Trey Lyles, he had an excellent game tonight. We had a viewer comment. He played really well. Yeah, he's been kind of in and out of the lineup, but I loved, he has athleticism, he has length, he has size. He struggled on the defensive end a little bit tonight, but at least on the offensive end, he was making shots, both from 2-pointers and 3-pointers, attacking the basket, using athleticism, hanging in the air, getting to the free throw line. He has a great offensive game, and we have to remember, he's a very talented player. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, going to Kentucky. He left after his freshman year. He was drafted pretty early when he was 18 years old, wasn't ready to contribute, still had to work on his body and get to more muscle mass. And I think now he's starting to fill into his body and get more acclimated to the NBA game. And I think it's really showing. And I think the Spurs are a great opportunity for him. And I think he's a guy that can pose a lot of mismatches on the offensive end of the floor because he's 6'8" with pretty good handles, pretty good size. He can shoot it and take it to the rim. So look for Trey Lyles to continue to play more and kind of serve as that point four as LaMarcus Aldridge is still, out due to injury. So I expect Trey Lyles to get a lot more action, specifically in this rodeo road trip coming up. But this was a learning experience for the Spurs. They're right now 0-3 in back-to-back games. And in miniseries, it's hard to beat a team like the Warriors twice. Especially coming off a back-to-back. Steve Kerr is a great coach. He's going to make the necessary adjustments. And the Spurs have been really struggling, especially, having to play back-to-back games on consecutive nights. And it was a bummer because the Fiesta Court was on display tonight. And, they've lost the last couple games on the Fiesta Court, to the Lakers, to the Mavericks, and then to the Warriors. So Spurs got to do a better job of defending home court and defending the AT&T Center. And I would have loved for them to get a win tonight, before they have to go on a 7-game road trip east. And, let me just preview that. So the next game is going to be Friday night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time against the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks are playing really well. They've had a lot of injuries. Gallinari's been in and out of the lineups. Bojan Bogdanovic, their prize free agent has been, been dealing with injury. Rajon Rondo been kind of hit and miss. Trey Young, DeAndre Hunter, who's going to miss some time. So the Hawks are really shuffling lineups. So it's a great opportunity for the Spurs to be able to go into Atlanta on Friday, get their confidence back up, get on the winning side, and try to steal a game in Atlanta because the Hawks are very porous on the defensive end of the floor. So the Spurs really need to have crisp ball movement, great cutting, expect them to get a lot of open shots and really take advantage of this poor Hawks defense. But on the offensive end of the floor, the Hawks are very strong. Of course, Trey Young, who's playing like an all-star level again. He's very good on the pick and roll, going downhill. You have to really watch. You cannot allow him to get to the free throw line on a consistent basis. He's been going to the line about 14 times a game, and he's very good on the pick and roll of going into the defender and drawing that foul. Even though I don't think that should be a foul because the defender has his own space and the offensive player is going to the defensive player. But you can't blame the players if it's going to get called. You're going to do it. So the Spurs need to have straight hands. They need to be disciplined and not foul Trey Young because when he gets to the free throw line, the Hawks' chances of winning continue to drastically improve. So I think that's one key on Friday. Also, you can't let Kevin Huerter stroke it from three. He's been playing really well this season. Maybe he's been kind of their two guard that's really been able to stretch the floor. So you have to bottle up Kevin Huerter. You can't allow Clint Capella to have a double-double, impact the game both on the offensive end and the defensive end. But the Hawks have a lot of weapons, so you're not going to be able to stop everything. Most likely, Gallinari is going to still play. Reddish, they have a lot of athleticism and length, something that the Spurs have struggled with, this year, losing the Pelicans, losing to the Grizzlies. So the Spurs really need to play fundamental, experienced basketball and really use their experience against this Hawks team, especially if DeRozan and Marcus Aldridge play. I think DeRozan is going to have a very favorable matchup. He's going to go against Cam Reddish, who did a great job on LeBron James, but he's still only a second-year player. So DeRozan still has an opportunity to really take advantage of that matchup. DeJounte Murray needs to be super aggressive because Trae Young doesn't essentially plays no defense. He's too small and he's like barely 6 foot, and DeJounte Murray is 6'6", so that's a matchup the Spurs can exploit, as well as Derek White on Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter doesn't really play that much defense, which it's not saying much. The Hawks team doesn't play that much defense in general. So if the Spurs do what they have to do on the offensive end of the floor and make more shots than they did tonight, and then play just enough defense, they should be able to get out of Atlanta, get a W. Because the Spurs team, I think the Spurs are just playing better than the Hawks right now. The Hawks have been having a lot of mixed lineups. And they've been kind of inconsistent this year. So, Spurs need to get a W on the first game of the rodeo road trip, first game of 7 games, because they're going to have a tough schedule. They have to play the Hornets on Sunday. They have to play the Pacers. They have a tough game against the Cavaliers, the Knicks. So these games are not going to be easy. And the Spurs have worked their way all the way up to 5th in the Western Conference. Probably they gone down, because after the loss tonight. But coming into the game tonight with the Warriors, they were 4th in the Western Conference, and they actually had the 7th best record in the NBA. I think that's crazy because the Spurs, by many experts on ESPN and other networks, were projected to be one of the worst teams in the NBA and to be a lottery team. But the Spurs are being very competitive. Now 14-11. They got the better record than the Warriors, and the Warriors have more talent than the Spurs. So I think the Spurs are on a great trajectory. They've been playing a lot better on the road. But it's going to be a little bit different. Atlanta is one of the few cities that's allowing fans to come in and watch their games. So there's going to be a lot of, there's going to be fans in the arena. It's going to be loud. It's a smaller arena, so they're going to be a little bit more, packed in together. So the Spurs are really going into a true road environment, and I think that's going to be a good test because you never know by the time the playoffs come if they're going to allow fans to come in. So the Spurs need to get used to playing with fans because, of course, at the AT&T Center, they're allowing no fans, and the Spurs are the only Texas team that doesn't allow fans. The Rockets allow fans, and the Mavericks allow fans, but the Spurs do not allow fans. So they need to be ready for a raucous crowd in Atlanta, for the Hawks team to be energized, and because they're still fighting for a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. But it's going to be a tough game, but I'll be back to recap and give you my analysis, what I saw. But again, Spurs fans, before I get out of here, please put your reaction and your comments in the chat section below. Spurs Nation, I know it was tough. We got a loss tonight, but it's just one game. Spurs have a chance to rebound. They have 2 days in between games, so hopefully you can get Derek White back, who I think was out more due to precaution. LaMarcus Aldridge is going to come back. Lonnie Walker hopefully can get his feet underneath him and play a lot better than he did tonight. And the Spurs can practice, make the adjustments, and learn from their mistakes tonight to be able to implement that on a tough road stretch coming up, starting Friday night again against the Atlanta Hawks on the road at State Farm Arena at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. So I'll be back on Friday around 9 o'clock, right after the game, to give you my instant analysis in reaction to what I saw. And again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for putting in the comment section, for putting your chats in. And remember to follow on Facebook the Patel Pick and Roll Sports Facebook channel, and like, share, and subscribe to the Patel Pick and Roll Sports YouTube channel. And that's where you can get the Spurs post-game reaction with Shivam Patel, who's me, the big Spurs fan, a crazy Spurs fan, I'm doing this live from San Antonio, Texas, and I can't tell you how happy I am that the Spurs, at least this year, are competitive. They're playing well. They've had a lot of great wins, the Boston Celtics, Denver Nuggets, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Warriors a couple of nights ago. So I think it's a great time to be a Spurs fan. The future is looking really bright. We got a lot of great young players, got a lot of great young talent. But I think Pop is very energized, playing the young guys and being around these young guys. And the Spurs definitely have a lot of potential this year, and look for them to bounce back Friday against Atlanta Hawks. And again, I'll be back at 9 p.m. Friday to react to what I saw. And you can watch the episode on the Patel Pick and Roll Sports Facebook page and the Patel Pick and Roll Sports YouTube channel. And then until then, good night, Spurs Nation, and we'll see you Friday.